welcome to the Hunt, Fish, Travel podcast, the first and longest running female-hosted hunting podcast. When she's not arguing with boss hens or convincing gobblers that her box call is the sexiest, she's helping you navigate your trip of a lifetime. And now, here's your hostess, Carrie Zilka.
Welcome back to another episode of Hunt, Fish, Travel podcast. I am your podcast hostess, Carrie Zilka, and always I am joined by the lovely Rachel Fontaine. And yet again, he seems to become a regular enough that we should just add him to the daily roster. It's Trent Marsh. Hi guys, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers, Mega Media Cast and Blast for 2015. And for the listeners who don't know or who weren't following us all on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, that first Tuesday night of the event, we had like a welcome reception at the Babcock Farm. We had a welcome address by the Kansas State Tourism and Lubbock County Conventions and Visitors Bureau. Jim Zaleski, who did a fan-freaking-tastic job of putting this whole event together. I cannot stress that enough. Of all the media
said
events,
that.
I know
Yeah.
like 5 times at least.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I cannot stress enough how much of a great job he did. Just all the writers' events that I've ever been to, ever, this one was the most organized. He kept everything on track. It wasn't like overly organized, which I think is the pitfall that some of the CVBs kind of fall into. Like they try to cram too much into 2.5 days. So then when things get behind track a little bit, then like everything is behind. Where this wasn't like that. It was way more low key. Just my opinion. What do you think, Trent? Do you think that's a fair assessment?
No, Jim is in a class by himself.
Seriously.
I truthfully don't know when he sleeps, if he sleeps, because I've never seen him when he's not at an 11. But
right? Yeah.
He's able to approach it from a really unique perspective just because he's kind of on the other side of it too. He is a tournament angler, so while it's a little bit different than this type of an event, he's used to having to go into some place and knows what he needs from a perspective of an angler. At the same time, he also has a radio show that he does in addition to heading up the CVB there. So he's kind of one of those few people that can hit it from media perspective, the CP perspective, but then also just the general hunter-fisher perspective to know what it needs to look like, and he's just a dynamic individual that then can turn around and put that vision into what it actually needs to be.
That is a good point, because a lot of these CVBs, a lot of these people that are involved, they don't fish, they don't hunt. They have all they care about is cramming as many storylines down your throat as possible, and not actually taking the time to consider that instead of cramming 12 of them down your throat, if I only crammed 4 applicable ones, I'll get more return on investment.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, it's, and you kind of understand where they're coming from with that. They've got any more. It's not just them, but any more budgets are so tight.
Oh, yeah.
And, it is difficult, especially when you're talking about a niche type of, we don't think of it that way because we love it, but for the most part, the kind of the hunt and fishing side of it is more niche than a lot of other folks that they have in there. So when they have somebody that can cover that area, they're going to be, like I said, they're going to try to cram everything at you because they need to.
Yeah.
So it's I don't envy them.
So anyways, there were, how many? 8 media folks and 8 corporate sponsors that were paired up together for...
on the hunting side, I think that's right.
And then, again, on the fishing side...
I know a couple guys did go back and fish some of those ponds on the area that we were hunting, though, and they were pulling 18, 24-inch channel cats and then 16-inch bass right behind it. And it was a nice mixed bag if you could get a line in the water.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I know some of the...
I was only mildly jealous.
Mildly. So let's walk the listeners a little bit. If you guys have never hunted Kansas, I personally would highly recommend it because it is really an interesting place. And it wasn't, I swear, because we were in southeastern Kansas in Parsons, and I really honestly expected flatness and Wizard of Oz, tornadoes, and nothing. And it was completely different. It was very rolling hills. Everything was super lush and green. It really wasn't what I expected at all from Kansas.
Well, and Jim kind of mentioned that they call that the green corner because that is the part that has water. So, yeah,
right.
It's very, really, I mean, it was very much like, I know for me, it was a lot like Northeast Indiana. It was still relatively flat, but you had a mix of hardwoods and, ag fields mixed in. I guess I didn't realize there was that much cattle. I drove down from Fort Wayne, so down through St. Louis and then over to Springfield, Missouri, and straight across into Kansas. And I guess I just didn't realize there was that much cattle business down there. Not dairy, but beef cattle business in a lot of that area where there's just grazing fields, which I guess I didn't realize, having not spent a lot of time in that part of the world, that was there. But it is. It's just very drainages and woodlots and ag fields and cattle pastures.
I would have never thought that either.
Yeah, it was weird. I just expected a lot more open plains. It was, and Trent and I, so Kansas is an over-the-counter turkey state.
The Grand Osage area, which is an old Army munitions plant, but if you get drawn for it, it's a buddy hunt. So, because Carrie and I were paired up to hunt together, only one of us had to get drawn, and since I got drawn, and again, Kansas is over the counter, we got on that limited access property, which was really cool.
I know. This whole trip was like stressing me out, and it was hilarious because, like, after I got home and kind of decompressed, I was like, dude, this whole trip was a piece of cake. I don't know what my problem was. Like, from the word go until I actually got home, I was like, oh my god, this is going wrong. Wait, no, it's not actually going wrong. I'm okay. Hey, like for example, when I arrived in Kansas City, which is like 2.5 hour drive. And I arrived, and I went to go pick up my car rental, and they were like, oh, we don't have a reservation for you. I was like, what? Of course you do. I paid for it last night. Oh, I didn't get a confirmation email. Yeah. So my $190, which I still think is absolutely ludicrous, for 3 days, rental went up to $370.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I wrote them a nastygram, and actually I tweeted the crap out of them, and I'm like, 20,000 followers? Let me show you the power of social media. Which they responded pretty promptly, and they were like, send us an email, and we've been kind of talking back and forth. So at least they responded. A lot of companies won't even do that, so that made me a little happier. But it's still almost $400 for a car rental for literally 2.5 days. Outrageous.
That is bad.
Outrageous. So irritating. My blood pressure's already rising. I'm about to go off on a rant.
Well, and I caught you as you were coming into the parking lot, and I knew I was in for an interesting couple of dadays when you were as unhinged as you were about only realizing after 2.5 hours of driving, in the last half hour, you realized that the car had Bluetooth, so you could listen to your music instead of you pretty much. As beautiful as the area was, you didn't have a lot to choose from in terms of radio stations in Southeast Kansas.
Yeah, pretty bad.
And you figured out as you were pulling in that you could have had your Bluetooth on?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I could have been listening to Spotify or whatever and just jamming. And instead, I was listening through my earbuds and my phone. The whole way. It's just, whatever. Yeah, I know. I got there and I was just like that crazy-eyed cat lady that you see that lives at the end of the road. That was me until I got to my room and sat for 5 minutes. I tell you what, though, that the Roadway Inn and Suites is where they put us up. What a nice place.
They were so hunter-friendly, too.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. I mean, the rooms were clean and hotel bathrooms are always like you go in and you can turn in a circle and stand in the shower. There was room.
Right.
It was nice. But the main thing, they knew we were there to hunt and fish, and they were cool with that.
Yeah, they had refrigerators and microwaves in the room, which I loved because there's nothing worse than when you're staying somewhere and you say you go out to dinner or something and you have leftovers. Well, no, I'm not going to take this because it'll spoil and I have no way to warm it up again.
Right.
And they were like spotless, or clean, which is a big deal to most of us that spend a lot of time in hotels.
Notice. They were clean?
They were spotless. Mine was anyway.
Yeah, it was a great location. It really was.
And right off the freeway, which is nice.
I know, I don't think you ended up eating there because I don't think, if I remember right, you're not crazy about Mexican food.
Yeah, I do Mexican food.
I'm crazy about most food, but Mexican especially. And the Pueblita in downtown Parsons is absolutely phenomenal, authentic Mexican food. The enchiladas are spot on. So the next time a listener finds himself in Parsons, head to downtown. It's easy to find. And locate La Pueblita because it is solid Mexican food.
Yeah. That's good to know.
I mean, there can be great hunting or great fishing, but if I'm eating franken beans, I'm not going to be happy.
Pretty much.
That's probably why I'm fat and have very few heads on the wall. But
and that first night, the Babcocks hosted us. They are leaders in the community. They had this, like you said earlier, they just had a gorgeous farm, and they had this cabin that if you had a lot of money and wanted to build like the ultimate cabin, this would be the cabin you would build. Like, it was incredible, and it was really tastefully decorated, because sometimes you go into these really awesome cabins and you're like, oh, it's so tacky in here. It was really tastefully decorated, and they were really great hosts. They put out a really nice spread. They were very welcoming. Like you said, we had the hawk's nest up on the second floor, which was really cool. People were up there looking for deer and turkeys and seeing lots of them. But I forget.
No, all the way around. I mean, there's nothing rarer than a private landowner opening up property for somebody else to hunt. And
right?
The Babcocks didn't know us from Boo, but
yeah.
You know,
so how many of you were hunting on that land?
I think there were 2 or 3 of them that were hunting out. I think two people were hunting out there. I think Dave Barris and Thane Smith were hunting out there. There were 4 of us that were hunting on the Grand Osage, and then PJ from NWTF, and he had one other with him on some of the public ground that NWTF had been putting some habitat money into in that area. So they were out chasing public land birds. And of course, I mean, granted, it's kind of cheating to get to turkey hunt with the NWTF guy, but
right.
I think it was Jeff from Nissan that was hunting with PJ. They did score that last. The rest of us were at the reception eating fantastic burgers. But PJ ended up connecting on a bird on public ground on the last day of the hunt. So
yep. At the last minute.
Well, not the last minute, because I'm pretty sure you tagged out after them.
Well,
under the train?
I had the Hail Mary hunt for the events, which we'll get to, but because that's a whole fiasco and awesome story.
Yeah, and now I ruined it.
I know, way to spoil it, dude. So let's back up to the 2 actual days. So Wednesday and Thursday were the actual designated days to hunt or fish, depending on what group you were with, but obviously we hunted. And Tuesday night, it was kind of cool because we had to go through this whole safety brief, because apparently there were unexploded munitions in the ground in areas, and we were not allowed over there so that, we didn't get blowed up and shit. So
you pay attention to the map when they say this shaded area has unexploded munitions.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what? No bombs?
Yeah.
Here.
Stay away.
Which when you actually get out there, it's not particularly well marked if that's the case either.
At all. Seriously, at all.
In the briefing room with the map, okay, that's great. But then you get out there and you kind of expect the Jurassic Park fence, 40,000 volts and concrete pillars.
Yep.
Oh no. You're just wandering along and there's a sign, private property, do not go any further. Potential hazards or something silly like that doesn't really tell you that you could soon be an amputee by force.
Right. And did you even wonder at all, like, how did the deer and the turkeys not get all blowed up? Because I'm surprised that there aren't, like, just random explosions as, this 200-pound
Well, right, because animals don't read signs.
Right?
Well, it was funny. There were munitions guys staying at the same hotel as us. That one night we were kind of standing there at the door talking to them, and they were planning on being there 8 months, going through. I think he said they were covering like a 60-acre area, and it was going to take them 8 months to get all the munitions out of the ground.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my gosh!
So they
That's
would
insane.
dig up what they dug up, and they'd make piles, and then they would make it go boom.
Okay,
Wow.
why were they there? Why is that stuff in the ground?
Because it used to be an old munitions factory.
Yeah.
And
Got it.
Yep, there's an old munitions plant where they actually, like, manufactured the ammunition.
And they buried these randomly.
They would
everywhere?
test them. They would test
Okay.
them out
Well,
there.
that's kind of SOP for the military. Hey, we've got this left over. What do you want us to do with it? Bury it.
Bury it. Nice.
We've got a couple tons of 45s left over. What do you want us to do with them? Bury them.
Bury them right over here. Nobody will ever go there.
Yeah, Too funny.
It was kind of a. When Carrie and I were driving around, because now you just have these huge 3- and 4-story brick buildings, tin roofs. They're maintained, but they're not new. But to drive through it put me in the mind. I told Carrie while we were driving around, it kind of put me in the mind of the pictures you see like in the concentration camps and stuff. Because
Really?
it's not busy. I mean, it's just there's roads to places, and then you just have buildings that you can't go to, and fences and railroad tracks running through the whole thing. And I don't know if it's necessarily an accurate representation, but just driving around that was kind of what I had in the back of my mind.
It was very Walking Dead-esque. And after I got my turkey that Friday, I still had like 2 hours to kill, so I went driving around and took a ton of pictures. And when Zach was looking through him, like over my shoulder, he's like, "Does anybody work or live on this base?" And I'm like, "No, it's been abandoned or whatever for how long?" And he's like, "That's something straight out of The Walking Dead." I'm like, "I know, right? It was kind of creepy because it was really quiet." It was really quiet.
Yeah.
But it was
It
cool,
would be a
though.
great place for a 3-gun competition.
Yeah, it really would be.
For a zombie 3-gun, it would be phenomenal.
Yep.
Except, unexploded munitions on the property.
Right.
But other than that,
Details.
Well, in 8 years or 8 months after they get through all the
Right. So Tuesday night, was it before? Yeah, it was before the reception. Or no, it was after. We went out there and... Or no, it was Tuesday afternoon, wasn't it? That we went out there. Yeah, it was before the reception that we went out and did a little
it was
pre-scouting.
after breakout and before dinner, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of sign. And the biggest beehive I've ever seen in my life. I thought we were going to die.
That wasn't a beehive. That was a 3-foot across tree that they were living in the crack of.
I know. They had a hive in there. And they
We
were
were
not
30
happy.
feet away, and you could just hear them.
Yeah, you could hear the hum. Yeah, and they were like big ass bumblebees. They were big, huge bumblebees.
Tracker jackers.
I don't know. They're like the size of my cat.
It
They
very
were
well
big.
could have been Tracker Jack.
Oh, God.
Very well could have been. And while it sounded like coyotes, it could have been those nasty Rottweiler hog thingies, too. Because you never know.
That is true. There's a lot of wildlife out there.
Oh, yeah. I've never been anywhere where I've seen that many deer in that short a period of time.
Dude, it was crazy. And I don't know if it's because there hasn't been anybody hunting out there in 60 years or whatever. They just, and it wasn't that they weren't afraid of us. They just were like, that's interesting. All right, I guess we'll go. I don't know. It was weird. It was crazy. It was not like deer here.
Did you get pictures of the shed that they showed us?
No, I did not.
They had a shed from a buck that'll go right at 200 inches last year.
Yeah, they had big deer out there.
Really?
Massive. Yeah. If you go back through the Hawk Optics Twitter account, it's at Hawk Optics, HAWKE Optics.
Yep.
If you go through the images from the Hawk Optics Twitter account, it shouldn't be too far buried in there. Dan Stefanik is holding an enormous shed that they measured that one out. I think they found the set, and estimating, I think, a 17-inch inside spread, it put him right at 199 inches.
Crazy. Big deer in Kansas, for sure.
Oh,
lots of turkeys, lots of... Yeah. Yeah. So that first day was an interesting day. What time did... We got out there We got out there before dawn, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were out there because we had talked to... They did a draw for where to hunt, and of course he said, okay, these are the 2 best areas, and then this area is just okay, and then this area is just whatever. So, of course, we picked third, which was the area right there actually near the biologist's office or the manager's office. And so we chatted them up when we were done and had it picked. And like, oh, birds they're roosting right here, just 150, 200 yards behind here, and they're working east. So you should be good. So we went and sat kind of on the road on the east side of where they said they were roosted. And we sat there and waited for the sun to come up and listened for birds and proceeded to hear exactly nothing. So we moved up probably another quarter of a mile on the road and checked the different woods, and eventually then heard birds, but they were further east yet. They had to be about half a mile from where he said they'd be roosted. So
yeah,
we kind of dug the gear out of the vehicle and started getting to the back. There was like a little thinned out stand of trees right on the road that it's not where the turkeys were. They were another probably 300 yards behind that we just wanted to get on the back side of that and get some decoys out before it got too light to give them something to come to. And we proceeded to bump at least one bird off the roof in there that never made a peep, which was awesome.
Yep.
And, we got to the back and got set up. And
so we get set up, and the sun starts coming up. So if you're facing, like, clock, at the 10 o'clock, all of a sudden you see movement. And we're like, okay, is that really turkeys? Oh, dude, that's a bunch of hens. All right, yeah, this is going to be a good spot, right? Blah, 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 blah. And there's a big train. So all throughout this whole base, there is, like, just randomly placed train cars, just, like, randomly deserted. And to the right of us, there's a whole long railroad track. And, God, how many cars do you think was there? Like 30?
Yeah, probably 30.
Yeah, 30 cars long, maybe? Which kind of cut the field that we were facing and the next field over in half. So
yeah.
all morning long, we're seeing hens, and they're like way on the other side of the field, of course, and we're hoping that they'll come this way. They don't come. Finally, I'm like, we get up and we're like, okay, let's move. And I'm like, okay, I gotta go to the bathroom quick. And of course, I don't know how they saw me, but they did. So then they go running clear across the other way, of course. And I'm like, damn it. So we can hear them. Like in the other field on the other side of this railroad track.
They gobbled good on the roost, and then once they hit the ground, I think we heard them gobbled once they hit the ground. And I had called a little bit, and nothing would do anything, so I started just cutting to beat hell and pissed a couple of the hens off. So she was cutting me off, but it wasn't doing anything for the toms. And then, we decided, all right, let's back out, let's go out to the Jeep, and we'll just drive up the road, see what's on, because we couldn't see through the train cars. You could see birds every once in a while. They'd walk between the gaps in the cars, but you couldn't see what they were. I mean, they were 400 to 500 yards away. So backed out, drove. We go across the railroad track, and there in the rising Kansas sun, what is there but 4 strutters, big strutters, just
that's right,
bigger than hell, right out in the middle of the field.
Wow.
Literally a 400-yard wide, 250-yard deep field, flat. The one part of Kansas that actually looked like Kansas
is the part
was the field the birds were in.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that we said, okay, so let's go to the other side of the railroad cars and see if we can't use the railroad cars for cover and just loop around the field and come in behind them.
We were all fired up because these birds were so beautiful. Because that morning sun just like rimmed those tail feathers so perfectly. We got a couple photos and they're just gorgeous. So we're like,
well,
oh
and we're in an area where supposedly it's easterns. If you look at the map, it's easterns, but there's a lot of Rio crosses. And there were at least 2 of those 4 strutters that had white fringing, and they were gorgeous. But it was one of those things that, where the birds didn't start where we expected them to. They had actually roosted on the bombs are here part of the property.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh no, you were that close to the where? Oh geez.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh no.
They were roosted on that property, so it was kind of a situation where if we try to wait them out, I mean, they're not going to cross and go back where they weren't already. We've seen jakes come, and we're actually heading back to the east, and they've been telling us that the birds were heading east once they flew down. So it was kind of we're only going to have an hour to hunt these birds anyhow. Let's see if we can make something happen, because there was no way to try to stalk this. It was try to get across this field and behind the train tracks and get lucky. And we made it about halfway across the field before one of them spotted us through the same crack in the cars that we saw them through. And then it was luckily nobody had a video camera to see Trent and Carrie try to sprint across.
Run as fast as we can to try to cut them off. Guns in hand, running full out. Afterwards, what was the comment that you made? Gosh, what was it? Oh God, what did you say that I just about died? Something about, here we are, running through a potentially ammunition field with guns in our hands.
10 short years ago, this field was full of landmines.
Yeah.
And now we are running carelessly through it with guns in hand.
Yeah, trying to beat them, to where because they were like circling around the far end of the train cars, and we were trying to beat them there. Yeah, we did not beat them there. They were gone by the time we got around there. But
it was at that point that we decided, they're already that close. We spooked them off. We didn't know exactly where they went, but we spooked them off. But it was kind of we can't go any further east. We can't find birds back to the west. If we go very far south, that grass. We tried walking around that grass for a while, but it was waist high. You couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
None of the birds were talking. And it's
like they were silent.
Unless you've got an ambush point, the birds, it's really tough to hunt turkeys if they're not talking. So we kind of just, it was probably about 11 o'clock. We decided, let's just head back to the hotel. We know where those birds were roosted. They never really saw, they saw us for 2 seconds between the gap of a railroad car 400 yards away. Mm-hmm. Those were not particularly scared birds. So Carrie and I made the executive decision that they were probably going to be back in the same place in the morning, and we just needed to let those birds rest so that now that we knew what they were doing, we knew where they were strutting, we'd be in good place for the next morning. Of course, The next morning was biblical rain.
Frickin' monsoon. It was like Hurricane Andrew in Parsons, Kansas. No joke. Yeah. But luckily...
I think somebody said they got almost 2 inches of rain that morning.
Wow, that's a lot of rain.
But luckily, Trent brought a blind.
Sat in a blind.
Yes.
Good idea.
Yes. Thank you, Trent, for bringing that blind, because I'd have been like, you can go out. I'm staying in if we hadn't had one. You're on your own, dude.
Well, initially we had talked about getting in early and just laying underneath the train cars.
Yeah, we were going to use the train cars as, cover.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
It's a really good thing we didn't, because...
That would have been really uncomfortable, by the way.
Yeah. But it was raining so hard, and those turkeys came down, and there was that one... We've got that video. Trent, did you post that video of that freaking turkey?
Yes.
Okay.
Everything is on the Hawk Option Twitter account. Yeah.
Yes. There was a turkey, man, he wanted to come. He wanted to come and visit our decoys so
the rain had let
bad.
Up, he was coming. He was coming.
Yeah.
I sounded like such a tramp with that call. He was all about it.
He wanted so bad.
In all of Southeast Kansas. Hand
But
to
it
God.
but it was just raining too hard. He hung out underneath that tree 20 minutes, I bet you. 20 freaking minutes.
It was hilarious because there were two of them, and they were both coming into the field, and then Carrie and I were both like, "Oh, they're coming! They're coming!" And these birds were on it. And as soon as we get our guns and we're getting ready for because at this point they're like 80 yards away, we get our guns, we turn, we look, and the skies once again open up. And it is raining sideways, huge drops. Like the video is on the Hawk Optics Twitter account, and it is the most absurd thing you've ever seen. And the one bird is like, dude, screw this.
Right.
It ain't worth it. There's only one of them. I'm going back in here. The other bird's standing out at the edge of the tree in the wind and the rain on one foot like a flamingo, like, hey, honey, chill. I'm coming. Wait, I'm right here.
Right, just hang tight.
Sit there for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And it never let up. It didn't think about letting up. It poured.
Anybody who goes and watches that video, make sure your volume is up. Because you will not believe how hard this rain is coming down. It's insane.
It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Finally, he just kind of was like, well, I don't know. The rain's not letting up. I guess I'll just go. And then we were sad. But
it was not awesome. It should have been awesome because that was a double. That was an absolute box solid, no doubt about it, double. They were going to walk right down those train tracks. They were going to stop it. And then we were going to make jelly about their face.
We'd have been done. No
what
joke.
Carrie failed to take into consideration on this hunt is that no matter how good her luck is, mine is worse.
Oh, see, that's me too.
So, yeah, it all just kind of fell apart.
It's okay. It's all right. So then we went home, empty-handed.
So then you were done. Then you were done.
We were kind of done. Because at that point, you're just kind of discouraged. And it's still raining, and you're like, what the hell? I'm covered from head to toe in mud and sludge, and just I'm soaked. Because even though you're in a blind, when it's raining that hard, you still get soaked. You know.
By this time, I think it was 10:30 before we left, and I mean we'd been sitting in the rain since 4:30.
Yeah.
It's 6 hours in a pouring rain.
And it would let up for like 5 minutes, but like when I mean let up, it went from like a level 10 monsoon to like a 4 monsoon hurricane. Like it never really let up. Like it's constantly rained on us that whole day. Rain. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and we've seen a lot of birds that morning though. They flew down, they never made a sound, but they just stayed. You know, I don't know how the Wisconsin birds act, but Indiana birds, when it rains, they just go stand where they normally would, but they just stand in the field to get out of in the rain. But they're not back in the trees. And these birds flew down, and they stayed in tall grass. They walked through wet grass, under trees dripping on them at 100 yards. All that we saw 20 birds that morning.
Yeah.
But they all
That's
stayed
a lot
back
of turkeys.
in the thick stuff. They all stayed back in the thick stuff, and that's, like I said, that's not what I expected from birds. That's not how they act here. So it was, again, we were kind of in a situation where we know where the highway is. They've used it 2 days in a row. So we ended up moving the blind back, and we went in, and I ate McDonald's, and Carrie got a coffee, and we decided we're just going to wait these birds out and head back out. Like I said, we moved the blind 80 yards back up into the tree line that the birds had come through, because eventually they're going to work their way back through, and maybe we'll get lucky on the last night.
Which didn't happen, obviously. No. Of course, that happened.
No. So, would we go back and sit in that blind for another 5 hours?
Yeah, I was just going to say 4 or 5 hours. I bet you we were out there just kind of hanging out. And actually, we did have we had some cool experience, so tell them about the deer.
Oh, that's right. That was before we left, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. We were, after we had sat out there for a while.
We moved the blind, and the back of this field was like, I don't know, reclaimed woodland. They'd planted some trees 10 or 15 years ago. And we come around the corner, and there's a young buck standing there. He's just starting to sprout antlers, and come around the corner, and he kind of sees me, and he looks, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And so we stop, and Carrie's behind me, and we're standing there for a minute. The deer's just still standing there at about 30 yards, and I'm like,
licking and chewing, and mm-hmm.
looked at Carrie, and Carrie looked at me and looked at the deer, and he decided, I'm going to check this out. He just kind of kept coming closer. So I proceeded to reach up, get my phone out of my vest, my turkey vest, turn it on record, hit record, and all the while he's just like, what's on?
Seriously, that tongue was just licking and chewing, and kind of like he'd take a step and kind of like, you know how like horses prance, he does that prancy thing, like with the 1 foot, and like, I'm not sure about you, but I'm really curious to know what exactly you are because you're in camo, so I know something's there, I'm just not sure what, and can I eat it? You know, like, are you a tree, a tasty tree? What are you? You know, that, it was cool. And that was like another 20 minutes.
I recorded 3 minutes. And we were standing there for that much long. I mean, we were standing there that long before I finally just said, all right, dude, we got places to go. Come on.
Right? Seriously.
I mean,
those close encounters are so much fun.
The video or not.
Wow.
So it's like, dude, I've had enough. Let's go.
I know.
And he bounced.
Yeah.
So cool. We set the blind up. We went back that afternoon. We probably got out there about 11:30, and we were able to sit because they closed the gate. Again, this isn't just like public ground. It's not, it's limited access. You have to check in and out of a gate every morning. We had to have a fancy little sign that says we're allowed to be here. We are not members of ISIS. We are okay. And so they shut the gate at 6 o'clock. Well, sundown's not till like 8:30, but we could only stay till 6 o'clock. So we hunted all the way till right about 5 before we packed up. And so, another 6 hours in blind, and we're getting ready to pack everything up. And by this point, we haven't seen a bird in 6 hours, and we're making fun of Rachel and other random people, and things that you would expect Trent and Carrie to do when Trent and Carrie are together.
Absolutely.
We're
I
not
expect
being
nothing
quiet.
less.
We are not hunters anymore. We're just partying in a camo blind. That's what we're doing. And Carrie starts bagging her stuff up. I stuck my head all the way out of the blind and said, "Turkeys, where are you?"
Loud!
That was kind of like the unofficial end of the hunt.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Except it worked. The turkeys were like, "Oh shit, Trent's looking for us. Let's go see what's up."
He's like, "Look, some turkeys." I'm like, "Shut up."
Everything up, and I'm like, "There's birds."
There are not.
No, really.
Whatever.
40 yards away.
I'm like, "Oh shit, there really are."
I wouldn't have believed him either.
Here they come walking. And so then we're like, "Crap!" Like, because half of our stuff was put away, like. Scrambling.
It didn't help any. Basically the entire afternoon. So it had rained all morning. It stopped raining. It got hot. It got humid. And we had a straight south wind that was clicking through at about 25 mile an hour. And we were in a hub-style blind. So that every 15 minutes, the hub would pop in. The whole thing would lift off the ground.
Right?
I mean, it was the Clampets go to Kansas. I mean, we really were a hot mess. In that. I mean, it was a mess. And then those birds show up as we're getting ready to leave, and they sit up there for about 30 seconds, and then Carrie's laughing. I can't believe there's turkeys. I'm laughing because, of course, there's turkeys.
And they're just
and they kind of
too far away.
They're like, these jokers are not killing us. And they went back in around the trees and leaped around us, and at that point I said, we're out of here.
Yeah.
I'm not getting locked in this place. Because hilarious. I'm not entirely convinced that there aren't zombies in that place.
It was hilarious. We were like, "Are you serious? For real?" But so we went back to Jim Zaleski's house. Reception and dinner provided by Commercial Bank, and they apparently have like their own grill that they take to parties or whatever, and they grilled up some good food. Which
the bird, they were like 3/4 inch thick burgers that were the size of your face, and they had some sort of a sauce on them that was phenomenal. It was delicious vittles.
We took some awesome photos that night, and the Zaleskis have a beautiful little property. They had a big bonfire, and they had like fishing in their little pond, and it was a good party. I didn't really want to go back to the hotel, to be honest with you. I was having a good time. So who all ended up killing turkeys? We had PJ. No.
Justin Nissan killed a bird. Brandon Butler killed a bird. Jake Van Houten killed a bird.
Andrew Howard
killed a bird. Pat Calmerton rolled a bird, went to get the bird. Bird got up and ran away, so he was ridiculed with crutches and walkers from everyone that knew him the rest of the time.
That is true.
Oh no.
It was a bad deal, but Pets, he can take it. Pets a strong fellow.
Yeah.
I think that was everybody.
Okay. Yeah, I think there was only 4 until the next day.
And what happened the next day, Carrie Zilka?
Well, because, like, Thursday night we were all just joking around. And I was just, like, joking around, like, this is the most ridiculous hunt. I never worked so hard for a turkey in all my life. Usually 8:30 and I'm done. You know, done by 8:30 or whatever. And it was just joshing and joking around, because it is kind of true normally. But, you know, birds in Wisconsin are very accommodating. So, apparently, they're very accommodating. So, I've never had to work so hard for some damn turkey breast. So I was like, I asked Jim, and I'm like, can I, you know, I don't leave until like 3:00 on Friday. I'm like, I have the whole morning to kind of mess around. I had planned on doing some interviews, but since I'll still be here, and I did bring my gun, because originally I was using one of Trent's guns, his 12 gauge, but I still brought my 20 gauge along. And I was like, I still have my gun and stuff. Can I just go out and see if I can make it happen? And he was like, of course you can, blah, 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 blah. So, and it was funny too, because like Wednesday morning, I was up at like 4 a.m. ready to rock it. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Thursday morning, it was more like 4:30. Friday morning, what time was sunrise? Like 5:45, I think. I think it was 5:45, and it's a 20-minute drive from the hotel.
Yeah, about 5:30.
Yeah. So I had to leave no later than like 5:00. Yeah, my ass did not even get out of bed until like 4:55, I think. Like, I literally got ready in like 10 minutes and like ran out the door, and I was like, as I'm getting to the check-in station, it's like getting light, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so busted. I'm never going to get there in time. But I did, and all I took with me was my phone, one box call, my slumper seat, of course, which I always have with me, and my gun. And I like ran to the tree where we knew they were roosting. And I set up, where we had the blind, and there was like that big, huge patch of tall grass between us and the roost tree. I set up right behind there and kind of used that for some cover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think they gobbled twice before they hit the ground. They were so quiet. Meanwhile, I saw a coyote, I saw a possum, I saw, all these other animals that I'm seeing. And it was pretty funny because I was hanging out behind that grass and they didn't see me until I moved. And I was like, all right, I'm feeling kind of clever here, using natural surroundings, which I never really do. I usually just pop up my blind. And like I said, they're very accommodating. But those bastards hit the ground. You could hear them hitting the ground and then silence. I couldn't hear which way they went or anything. So I sat there and I sat there and I sat there, and there was no gobbling. There was no clucking. There was no sound. And I sat there, and finally I was like, well, I gotta pee. I guess I'll get up and wander around and see what they're doing, because I'm just sitting here doing nothing. And they were in the field that we had set up that first morning. They were on the other side of the train tracks in that far field.
Of course they were.
Of course they were. They couldn't have come into the field right past me. Of course not. That would have been too easy.
So what you're saying is that I was in the exact right spot 48 hours too early.
Correct. That would be correct. Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and take that as a victory for me.
So I can see them. So there's like a big brush pile on the other side of one of the train cars. So I crawled under the connection part, and I was like hiding behind this brush pile, and I could see them, and they were like 400 or 500 yards away. And I'm like, man, everybody was like, belly crawl out to them, belly crawl out to them. And I'm like, there's no way I'm getting out there. There must have been 15 freaking hens out there and like 4 fully mature toms and like 2 jakes. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to belly crawl and get close enough to them before they hit that far tree line. There's no way it's happening. And I got to get closer now because I've got my 20 gauge. So I've got to get within like 20, 25 yards. So I'm like, oh, crap. So I went back to the other side of the train tracks and made my way to the far end like towards the road, and cut into the trees, thinking that I could use the trees as cover, and thinking that if I could just, get to where they're heading and cut them off right there and be able to set up so that they're coming to me, that'd be perfect. Those little bastards, they talk about turkeys and their eyesights. I was like 800 yards away and they saw me.
Oh.
And I'm in dense trees in camo, and all they saw was something that they didn't like. And everybody's tails went down, and they made a beeline back towards the roost tree, to the completely far other corner of the field. And I was like, are you serious? I'm done. I'm done for the day. The hunt's over, whatever. They busted me. So I'm like, all right, I'm still going to try and cut them off. So I circled back the same way that I had just come. And I was like moving my ass. I was hurrying so fast. And then there was maybe about 10 train cars between the end and where I kind of like paused to kind of see where they were. And those little buggers, there was like a big ass oak tree on the other side of the train tracks. They're literally like 60 yards from me, just hanging out, clucking and scratching and just chilling, and everybody's strutting. And I was like, oh my God, they're right there. Like, oh, they're right there. Like, oh no. So like, I'm like, okay, I get back and I'm like, behind the train car, I'm like, okay, they can't see me. And train tracks, you've got the ditch on each side. And I'm like, if I can get to the other side of that ditch, I should be able to crawl up just enough so that I can get over the rise and shoot one of them. So I get down and I start crawling underneath this train car. And I am not even kidding. I've never seen so many damn potato bugs in all my life. And I mean, they don't bite or anything. Anybody knows potato bugs, they don't really bite. They're just gross, like, and creepy crawly. So I'm trying to be quiet because I'm like, okay, now they're only like 40 yards away from me. I'm like, I just got to make it like 20 yards closer. That's all I got to make it. And I'm moving super slow over the train tracks, trying to move my gun. And I promise you, at that point, every 6 inches I move, a head would pop up and look at me. And just look. And look at me. And I'm like, oh my God, there's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here. Sending out mental vibes. No, there's nothing to see here. It's all right. Everything's fine. And I swear, it would be like as I'm bringing the one leg up over the train track, that's when they would look. So like leg in the air, like, oh crap, I'm starting to get a cramp in my calf. Please look, just put your head down. I'm sure there's more interesting stuff to see in the ground in front of you. So I crawl over the tracks and I crawl down the ditch. And because it had been raining on so much, there's like a freaking creek in this ditch. And I'm like, oh, I would like, and before I got to the water, I was like, popped up a little bit, almost like onto all fours. And I swear to you, like 5 heads popped up. And I'm like, oh crap, they're totally gonna see me. So back down to the belly I went. Through the water. Over gravel and grass and bugs and ticks and spiders and potato bugs and lovely, I don't even know what else. Chigger bites. So that's a bonus. It took me over an hour to crawl 15 freaking yards. Because literally every time I'd make a move, a head would pop up. They totally knew I was there. I mean, they knew I was there. They just weren't sure if I was a threat or not. But they knew I was there. Like, every time I moved, one of them hens' heads would just pop up and, like, inspect me. You're looking upwards, and as they pop their head up, you slowly put your head down so that the brim of the cap, blocks you, blocks them from seeing, like, your skin color or whatever. And I was wearing a face mask and everything, but I'm like, all it would take is them to see my eyes or so, it doesn't much to spook a turkey. So I'm crawling back up that side of that ditch. And at this point, I'm freaking out. I'm kind of like freaking out because I'm like, all right, now I'm really working for this. don't screw it up. Like, don't make a sudden move. You got to move slowly and, smoothly so that they don't think that you're a threat or whatever. And I get close enough that they're in range now, but I'm not far enough up the far side of the ditch to get my gun up far enough and shouldered without it, like, taking out a bunch of dirt. So I'm like, all right, I just need, like, one more foot. And I promise you, like, half a dozen heads pop up. And I'm like, they are right there. I swear to God, if I get busted right now, I'm going to lose it. And I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, I should just pop up, blast away. And I'm like, oh, but I can't see. And it's a good thing I didn't, because eventually, I bet you, it had to have been like 3, 4, 5 minutes before they kind of went back to doing their own thing. And I could just see the tips of the fans, like, because my face is against the dirt, and I could just see the tips of the fans, and I'm like, oh my God, they're strutting, like, right there. I finally get up far enough that I can shoulder the gun, and I slowly lift up, and there are 4 toms. They must have been, like, interlocking elbows. They were so close together. So I'm like, I can't take this damn shot. I can't take the shot. Seriously? I can't take the shot? Seriously? Like, and I'm kind of in an awkward position as it is, because I'm kind of like holding my whole upper body up, like just with my torso on an awkward angle in this ditch, where I'm like, please, all I need is for that one there to take 2 steps that way, that one there to just take 1 step that way. And there were 3 full toms and 1 Jake. And the Jake's fan was actually, I've never seen a more perfect fan. Next year, his fan is going to just be amazing. And then the other 3 toms, the closest one to me, I was pretty sure was the boss tom. You can just tell he had the attitude, and he had a couple of feathers missing that I'm assuming from fighting. But they just kind of like, they accommodated me. They all took the needed steps away. I pulled that trigger. He went down, and then he was dead. And then all the turkeys were gone. I didn't
just like that.
I didn't even see them leave. Honest to God, I did not see a single one of them leave. I was so focused on that one turkey.
And again, Trent was gone without her going home.
Oh.
And just like that, I was done. And then of course, so then I had to text like Kristen and Josh, and I was like, see, told you, done by 8:30. It was like 8:10 or whatever, like, it was funny because I was like, see, thank you for accommodating me, Mr. Turkey.
There you go.
It was exciting.
My gosh, what an awesome story.
It was exciting, and it was cool, and like I said, I've never really had to like belly crawl or even really put it like a spot and stalk on a turkey. Well, any animal really. So it was kind of exciting that way. I kind of felt like a little ninja in camo because I had to be sneaky and clever, and because I don't care what anybody says. I know people say they're really dumb animals, but those turkeys are so easily spooked. Like blinking the wrong way and they're gone. Literally. So I felt pretty proud of myself that I got that freaking close. Had that many eyes on me.
That is, wow. That is unbelievable because, to be that close with, Mm-hmm.
And to
good job.
Thanks. Yeah, and to move that for that long and that slowly without doing something stupid, or just losing my patience.
Right.
But I didn't even realize how long it was until I checked my phone. I'm like, holy crap, it's been more than an hour.
I mean, you did a good job. It wasn't an easy area to hunt. You had, if it was a normal day or a normal place, you don't have 30 train cars cutting a strut field in half.
Right.
I mean, it was just, it's a limited access, so they don't get hunted. And, like I said, the turkeys saw you, or they knew something was there, but they weren't, they don't get enough hunting pressure to bug them out where it might have elsewhere. But at the same time, you had to contend with just random trains all over this place. It was an experience for sure. Yeah, it was a cool place to hunt. I was glad to get it done. I was the first girl to ever take a turkey off of that. So that was cool. All right. So anyway, that was the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers Mega Media Cast and Blast. I think. Always a good time.
Always a good
great
time.
Group.
Yeah. It was cool.
Anytime that Carrie and I can get together and, you know, we've got a special sense of humor that just works. So it's
There is
nice
that.
to see it.
There is
It
that.
does, absolutely.
And that'll do it. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to find the show on iTunes. Just search for Huntfish Travel Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. You can also follow me on social media. Just go to huntfishtravel.net and click on the social media icon of your choice. The only one that's not listed there is Periscope. You can always find me on Periscope. Same Twitter handle, @CarrieZilka. Until next time.